Hey, Birth Warrior. Welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. It is always such a treat and such an honor to be here with you. Such an honor and such a pleasure to be here with you. Today's episode, as the title suggests, is going to be diving into a question that I don't think we ask ourselves very often, which is why we want to have children. And this question is not meant to make you feel uncomfortable. It is not meant to challenge your desire to be a parent or to have more children. It really is allowing you to go a little bit under the surface. But imagine that you are sitting with a dear friend, a close friend. And imagine that you may have just gone through a failed cycle, a failed IUI or IVF cycle, or you may have recently had a loss. And while this friend is with you, you're having a heart to heart. You're having this really deep moment in which you get to be your most authentic self and you feel safe in doing so. And this friend poses this question: why do you want to have children? It isn't to discourage you, but it is to support you in finding yourself in the midst of it all, finding who you are in the midst of everything that's happening. So imagine that these are the grounds on which this conversation gets to happen. These are the grounds on which you and I interact with each other today. So let me dive into what some of the reasons might be. I'll share these in case any of them may resonate for you. The why behind the desire. So the first one is, could it be because you got married and having children is the next logical step? Is it because having children will make your partner happy? Is it that your partner will be satisfied that being with you, choosing to be with you, was the right decision? Could it be that you will make your parents happy or your partner's parents happy by having children? So they will have a beautiful baby to play with and bring them joy in their golden years. Could that be the reason? Is it because having a child feels like it will complete something that's missing in your life? Will having a child allow you to be a version of yourself that you've always wanted to be? Does it feel like having a child either gives you the permission or sets up the circumstances, the conditions for you to be the person you've been wanting to be? Is it because having children represents womanhood? And in order for you to feel as though you've actualized as a woman, then you also need to be a mother. And then the final prompt: have you always known that you wanted children? Or have you always known that it is the expectation, both from your family and our society, that you should have children? So, no need to wrestle with those. Just allow whatever sparked something for you. Just allow whatever, almost like you were looking at a crowd. Whichever one stood up, whichever one jumped up, just allow that to be, without judgment, without pushing against anything. Just allow yourself to explore this and see what comes up for you. Because the more you are consciously aware of, then the greater ability you have to direct your life, the greater conscious control you have in your life. Okay? So, this topic of having children, of course, we know that in order for humanity to continue to exist, we must reproduce. It's a thing that's a part of our species, right? But in your being, where does your desire to have children come from? As I consider these questions, what comes to mind is experiences that I've had around children, and in particular, one of my nephews. So, a few things I'm thinking of is when I visit, and let's say that I am in a room and he comes in the room. Then when he comes in, he says, "Hi, Natalie." He doesn't actually say Natalie. He says some other words, some other combination of sounds, because he's not saying Natalie consistently yet. But for example, let's say that he says, "Hi, Shmurshi." And then it might change from time to time. And he's learning how to say auntie instead. But each time he comes in the room, he says hi and he waves, and it is the most adorable thing. Like, everything this child does is adorable. When he blows bubbles, he has so much fun. He experiences so much joy from blowing bubbles. Sometimes they don't even really blow, but he screams and laughs and stretches his arms upwards and just gets so much joy out of that experience. When he does anything, it's with this spirit of exploration and playfulness. Children in their natural state are an expression of joy. And being around them gives us joy. Being around them keeps us in that state of joy, that state of moment to moment joy. And I think that is one of the experiences that we enjoy from being around children, but also seeing other families or other parents with their children. It's something that we enjoy and want for ourselves. Like, we want that joy for ourselves. Mhm. So that's one thing that has been present for me, the desire for joy. And the second Going back to what I mentioned before with when my nephew comes in the room, and it doesn't matter if he has said hi several times in a day. As soon as he sees me, he greets me with a hi, Shireen, Shireen. And he smiles with his adorable cheeks. And of course, I have to grin and say hi. And what that feels like, the best way that I've been able to describe my interactions with my nephew is unconditional love. Mm. And it feels like unconditional love because there are no expectations. He has no sense of wrong or right. So I am never wrong when I'm in his presence. We are only in the moment. We are only in this moment enjoying blowing bubbles or enjoying listening to reggae music and nodding our heads or dancing and smiling or enjoying him pointing at something and saying something to me. And even though I don't fully understand the words, I am just fascinated by the fact that he is communicating, that we have a connection, and that he's expressing something to me, that he can look at something and come alive and express that excitement through his laughter or his shrieks, his giggles, the movement of his body, just everything, his joyfulness. There is no expectation of what I will do in the future. There is no judgment of what I have done in the past. There is nothing that he is holding against me. There is nothing that he expects of me. We're just in the moment. And that is what feels like unconditional love. And it's unconditional love and acceptance, pure acceptance of who I am. Like I can just be me in his presence. And I think these are some of the things that we may crave. These are some of the things that we want to experience on a very, very deep level when we desire to have children. This is something that I began intuitively picking up on when I became a doula and I was supporting birthing people and their partners as they were in the process of bringing their babies earthside. It's as though once the baby emerges, something happens. I'm going to try my best to find the words to describe it, uh, but I might not get it right, but I'll try my best. It's as though this pure energy, this pure spirit emerges, and the birthing person recognizes that this pure energy is a part of them, and that this pure energy can love them unconditionally. It's this sense of having a fresh start, like not having done any wrong in the past, and not, again, having any expectations of you, because the baby coming in isn't coming in with demands, whatever we might consider to be quote unquote demands. It's really just the life that we want to create for the baby. But they come in as this pure energy, as this new life. And it's almost as though, as the parent, like you get a fresh start. Like you get to be loved unconditionally because this new life coming in doesn't know anything but to love. They know you as their caretaker, or they will know you as their caretaker. They will know you as the person who loves and supports them. And their only job is to love you. And again, that is unconditional love. This newness, this new life, this new beginning, being able to hold this being looking up at you with complete innocence. You get to be their caretaker and they just get to love you. I think that behind the desire to have children, whatever might be on the surface, whatever feels like the obvious answer, I think that what we're all seeking is unconditional love, acceptance, and to experience joy. I think that's it. And based on what has been modeled to us, whether in our families or in the society that we grew up in, based on who we admire and how they lead their lives, if our perception is that children do provide those experiences of unconditional love, of acceptance, of joy, then it means that we will want to have children to experience those things. And it means that in entering parenthood, or in taking steps to move towards parenthood, those are the expectations that we have. We do expect to experience love, unconditional love. We do expect to experience acceptance. We do expect to experience joy. So, the other thing that's come into mind now is that, as children come in as these pure beings who haven't really uh, gone through any contrast or challenges in their life yet, or trauma, then they mostly stay in that pure state, right? But once they start getting older and encounter challenges, once they start experiencing more of life, more of the world, and trauma, then their perception of us, the parent, likely changes. And when their perception of us changes, it means that they may no longer be a source of unconditional love. They may no longer hold us in a space of acceptance. Our experiences with them may no longer be moment to moment joy. I think we can all expect that that will happen because they come in with their own purpose. The fact that they enter the world with us, parents, as their caretakers, it means that our stories are intertwined and connected forever. But when their soul is entering this earth plane, when their soul is coming in, they also come in with their own intentions, with their own life purpose. Which means that they may not always be our source of unconditional love, acceptance, and joy. And so that's what I would like for us to explore even further. What that means to not have becoming a parent satisfy those three core desires. What does it mean to not have our children be the ones who are responsible for having us experience those things? And as I'm sharing this, what's coming up for me is something that I realized after my first loss. I had been working in the advertising industry. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard a part of this story. So I'd been working in advertising and really got to the point where I knew that I shouldn't be there any longer. So when I entered the industry, I was really, really excited to have a job. I would say that's the first thing. Um, but I did love parts of what I did. I did love the strategy and coming up with the ideas. I did love mentoring my team. I loved presenting and working with clients and coming up with the presentations. Like I loved parts of what I did. But there was something else that was missing. There just something that was not being fulfilled. This deep desire to make a difference and improve people's lives. So even though I was doing things that were mentally stimulating and interesting, and I was learning, and I had a great team, even though all of those things were satisfied, it didn't feel as though the work that I was doing was creating or was leading to some greater good. And what was interesting is that I was feeling this for a while. It was probably maybe about a good year and a half that I was feeling this, but did not know what I wanted to do, did not know what my next steps were, and yeah, was also afraid of letting go of what I had because I didn't know where else I would go, right? So let me just hold on to what I have instead of feeling lost in the world. So I had a consultation, a conversation with someone. And in the midst of that conversation, I realized that one of my desires behind becoming pregnant is that I wanted my baby to give me the courage to find a better way to make a living. The thought process that I had was when I become a mother, I am going to have to find a better way to make a living. I knew for sure that once I became a mother, I would want to work from home. Like there was no question that I would want to do work that I was passionate about and work from home. And somehow I needed becoming a mother to do that because I didn't have the courage to just leave the industry. I didn't have the courage to just go out and find a job that would allow me to do that. I also didn't believe that it existed. Right? This was a few years back. But I felt that once I became a mother, I would have to do it. And so it would just happen. And so coming in, my child already had responsibilities. She already had a role to play. And in this conversation with this person, when I got to that moment of clarity, I thought, shit, like what a burden to place on a child. Why would I have that be her responsibility? And if that didn't happen, if it did not work out that way, if I still either didn't have the courage or the resources or fill in the blanks, to have that life that I envisioned would be my version of motherhood, would it then mean that I would be dissatisfied about becoming a mother? Would it mean that I would hold some sort of maybe not so positive emotions towards my baby? And these questions are not questions that I have explored before. Like, I am actively walking you through these questions. And so I'm going to pass the quote unquote talking stick to you now. So that you can begin to think through, what are the expectations that you have of your life as a parent? And I don't want to frame it as what role do you want your child to play, because I don't think that's how we think of it consciously. I wasn't thinking, oh, when my child comes in, it's going to be her responsibility to make me leave my job and find a better one. It was more like, when I become a mother, I know that it's going to be so important to me that I'm just going to have to make this dream of mine work out. I'm going to have to make being a stay at home mom and have a career and do purposeful work. I'm going to have those things work out because they're important to me. So, whatever you think motherhood or parenthood will lead to or should lead to in your experience, then that is equal to the responsibility that you're giving your baby. So, going back to some of the prompts I shared earlier, could it be that your baby will make your partner happy or happier? Could it be that your partner will know for sure or will feel more satisfied that they made the right decision by choosing you? Could it be that your baby will bring joy to your parents and your partner's parents or your in laws? Could it be that there is some feeling inside of you of something being missing, and the love or excitement for your baby will help to fill what feels like a hole, will help to fill what feels missing? And similar to my case, or in my first pregnancy, I should say, could it be that your child or the expectation of your child is that they will help you to be a version of yourself that you may not know have the courage to be? Or could it be that this is the next level of success? It's the next thing to do to be successful. Like you've done all the things, you've checked off all the boxes. And in our society, having children is considered success. So could it be that this is the next level of success for you? I know that these questions are not ones that we ask ourselves every day or ever. And I also know that it's not comfortable to explore these. But what I believe in wholeheartedly and what I teach is that you should always be okay with or without children. And again, I'm not discouraging you from having children. Children are freaking beautiful. Like, being around my nephew gives me so much joy. Of course, have your children. But while you don't have children, while you're actively working towards it, what if you were to already experience those core desires that are actually at the root of having children? What would it be like to experience unconditional love right now? What would it be like to experience acceptance right now? And what would it be like to experience joy right now? And again, the reason why I brought up the fact that children grow up, they have their own ideas and their own desires, and they sometimes have attitude because they live in their own bodies and they want to fulfill the purpose of their own lives. And so, in the years when they depend completely on you, in the years when they just see you with love, when they have no perception of wrong or right and what you should have done but didn't do, in those sweet years, there is so much love that you can experience in your interactions with them. But eventually, with children or anyone that we use to be our source of unconditional love, our source of joy, our source of acceptance, it means that we're always dependent on them to experience those things. So you're always looking outside of yourself to experience those things. And that is not the life you're meant to have. You are not meant to have a life where you cannot feel grounded within your own self, where you cannot feel at peace with yourself. You are meant to have a life of joy. You are meant to experience self acceptance. You are meant to experience unconditional love, self love. And so I would encourage you to begin to explore this in your life right now. Begin to explore what this might feel like to already have your joy and your self acceptance and your love right now without children. I'm thinking of something that came out of my interview with Kimberly Baker Sims, the Naked Yoga Goddess. I think that was in episode maybe 24. And she was talking about nakedness and how when you are comfortable in your body and in your skin, in your naked body, in your naked skin, then your clothes get to be the adornment, right? Your clothes and your jewelry get to be the things that you adorn your body with and not the things that you hide your body with, not the things that you hide your fear, your shame, your pain, your guilt, insecurities, not the things that you hide with, but the things that you embellish and adorn yourself with. And I could say the same about parenthood, that having children gets to be what adds even more joy and more beauty to your life, what adds even more love. But not the conditions that are required for love, for joy, for self acceptance. Because you already begin experiencing these things within yourself. Needing anything outside of ourselves means that we're actually slaves to something else. I'm remembering a joke that my husband and I were sort of dissecting. Several years ago, we were watching some video, I think something on social media, I don't remember where, but this woman was complaining to her ex partner that she gave her ex partner the best years of her life. And we've always we always come back with this joke every now and again. And what I commented, a few days ago as it came back up in a conversation is that if someone says that they gave someone else the best years of their life, then it's because they weren't also living for themselves. They were only living for that other person. They were using that other person as their source of joy. Or they're only living for that other person to experience joy and probably found some secondary joy from that. within ourselves, we're meant to be whole. And from that state of wholeness, share who we are so that we can enrich the lives of others, but not to require others in order to get to wholeness. I always have like a conflict when I hear the words, you complete me, because I feel as though we should be able to find completion within ourselves, right? It isn't that two people who are a half come together and become one. It's that two people who are whole come together and become even more. And so I wanted to share that perspective because I feel as though so much of how we operate, it's from this place of less than. It's from this place of lack and needing fulfillment outside of ourselves versus already finding joy and love and acceptance within ourselves. Because that's the only way that it can be lasting. That is the only way it can be lasting if it's a source that comes from within us. We're not able to control others. We're not able to control their behavior. We're not able to control how they feel about us or how their feelings or perceptions may change about us. But when we can find home within ourselves, it means that we'll never feel lost. We'll never feel this longing in order to be complete. I know that this is going deep and it may or may not resonate with you. It's what I'm feeling guided to share. And so please take this at whatever level it makes sense for you. If it doesn't, that's okay. And if it does, that's wonderful. I just really, really want us to go deeper, go under the surface. What's behind the desire? Because if what you find is something like, oh, this relationship feels rocky, but if I have a child, then that may solidify the relationship. If that's the desire, then imagine the role that you're asking this child to fulfill. If there's a relationship that needs healing and there's a child coming in that depends on caretakers that aren't able to be present with each other, then does that child really help to create solid ground? Or if what you find when you look deeper is that there is pressure to satisfy the desire of your partner's parents, then that's just a heavy burden to carry. That's a heavy burden to be carrying into your bedroom. That's a heavy burden to be carrying into your conception journey. So, what if your pregnancy could be for you instead of your in laws? Mhm. And if what you find is that you don't feel happy in your life, something feels empty, something feels missing, and you want to feel loved, you want to feel seen, then will having a child fulfill that? And when you're among your friends or siblings who you perceive as being more loved or being more seen, it means that having a child was never the answer. It's always been healing the part of you that has felt unloved, that has felt unseen. Do you get what I mean now? If having a child is meant to be the answer to the imbalances, this will never be a permanent answer because the imbalances will always resurface. They will take another shape, they will take another name because they still need to be healed. And whatever the imbalance is, if you're able to work through those, if you're able to find your joy, to find your unconditional love, to find your self acceptance, then you're not looking for parenthood to complete you. You already feel this sense of completion, and parenthood gets to be the thing that adds even more joy. It gets to be the vegan icing on a delicious gluten-free vegan cake. I'm making my vegan transition now, and so I'm going to keep my examples as vegan. But you get what I mean. Okay. So I am going to, yeah, I'm going to land here for today. This feels like a good place. If things have bubbled up for you that you want to share with me, feel free to do so. I am at hello@nataliefacey.com. That's HELLO at NATALEEFACEY.com. I'm also on Instagram at The Birth Warriors. And where else am I? Oh, an update. We are no longer inside the Facebook community. And I shared this announcement within the community in early May. Uh, it's a decision that it on some levels it was a difficult one, but it was also a very clear one. It was one of those like heart centered, very rooted decisions. So I decided to transition the Facebook community, meaning we are no longer inside of Facebook, but we're still alive and active um, on Instagram, and we're still keeping in touch via the Birth Warrior newsletter. And the reason behind that decision is because Facebook in general tends to be a really triggering environment. So you log in, triggering and sort of like emotionally exhausting, right? Like you log in and there is just a bunch of stuff, a bunch of stimuli that comes your way all at once. And it's more challenging to curate what you want to see. So when you're on Instagram, you're able to follow the people you want to follow. If you even want to create a new account, you can do so so that you can just share openly without feeling judged or without people knowing you personally, knowing what parts of your story is that you don't want to share, right? So I have been hearing from birth warriors that one, either they're not on Facebook because it's triggering, or two, they are a part of the community. They've signed up to be in the community, but they're not actively on Facebook. And it just felt like it was the right decision to not have to hold this space that is meant to be healing in an environment that's also triggering, right? So it's like, it's like hosting a meditation in the midst of a dark jungle, right? When you are triggered by the jungle and scared, and you have to like walk through the jungle every single week to get to the meditation circle. How about if we just move the meditation circle to a space where it's not triggering? So that's the decision that I made. um, the beautiful opening that this has created is that I am now leading healing circles. This is the first time that I'm doing this. If you've been listening for a while, then you know that I led the Birth Warrior Boot Camp sometime late last year, which went really well. Um, all the attendees got value out of that experience. And I think one of the things that were most valuable is that you were able, well, if you attended, but the attendees were able to come together and see each other, come together and hear each other, come together and be seen and be heard. Right. I am excited that I get to do this because on Facebook I was leading lives, but I couldn't see anyone. I could see who joined, or I could see that people joined, but I couldn't see your faces. And um, that's something that I really wanted to be different. I really want to be able to see you and be with you in that way. And so, not hosting the community on Facebook anymore now creates this lovely opportunity for us to come together in community in a different way. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to continue to stay in touch on Instagram, to continue to follow your stories and to cheer you on, and to continue to share insights and resources and inspiration and just all the things that are going to be supportive on your birth warrior journey. So, yes, that is the big update on the transition or the evolution of the community, because it hasn't disappeared, it just no longer exists in the Facebook jungle. The other thing is that if you are currently a member of the Facebook community, or if you consider yourself to be a member of the birthwork community, I have put together a free gift for you. I don't know why people put those two words together, free and gift. If it's a gift, it should be free, right? I've put together a gift for you. So check the link in the show notes. Wherever you're listening to this, be sure to check the show notes and you will see the link to the gift. um Download it, it's going to be yours, and it's something that I have put together with so much love and with the intention that it's going to be healing, encouraging, inspiring as you're on your journey. Whether the part of your journey right now is that you're trying to conceive, or you're currently pregnant, or you're just focusing on your healing, or you're at home with your rainbow and you still want to focus on your healing, wherever you are on your journey, then this is meant to support you in that process. So check the show notes. So, yes, we went through a lot today. I know we went through a lot. Um, but if you're here, if you're listening to it, perhaps this is something that your soul has been wanting to hear. Okay. So I am wishing you a wonderful rest of day and week. And look out for another episode in another 2 weeks. And join me on Instagram, join the newsletter. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to connect. Feel free to reach out to me if you are at the part of your journey where you know that you want support. You know that you don't want to do this alone, because you don't have to. Right. So send me an email again at hello@nataliefacey.com. My email is also in the show notes. And let's talk about what support might look like so you don't have to feel like you're suffering alone. Okay. All right, Birth Warrior. I will see you in another couple of weeks. Sending you love. Bye.